Welcome or welcome back to Heretic Owl Tarot. This is my second, third, fourth attempt at this because I am just struggling with words lately. I swear. If you have seen like any of my daily energy reads, like I switched over to not talking because seriously, I mean, words just are not coming to me lately. So I'm going with there's an upgrade coming to my throat chakra, my throat center. So we'll see. So enough of that. If you're here, we are doing, if you're here, of course you're here. Clearly we are doing our messages by human design profile. If you're watching this video, you would be a martyr, heretic, or you're like, what the hell is this? So both are welcome. All are welcome. If you don't know your profile yet, there's a link in the description to get your own human design body graph. You'll just need the same information that you need for your natal chart. So your birth date, time, and location. Human design is a little more finicky as far as the time goes. It can have the potential to change certain aspects in your chart depending on the time that you were born. So just make sure that is correct. If you don't know the exact time that you were born, maybe you have an intuition that you were born in the morning or afternoon, evening, overnight, use a time that correlates with that. Or maybe at some point in your life, somebody would have said, you know, no, you were born in the morning. So whatever, you know, you can use a time that correlates to that time of day. I mean, you can also play around with it and see, you know, just put in a bunch of different times and just see if it does change anything. I know, like for me personally, my profile and my type didn't change, but there were some gates and things that changed depending on the time of day, but my profile did not. So I'm just destined to be a 5-1. But like for my dad, looking up his chart, there were a couple aspects that changed depending on the time. So again, you know, I mean, you can play around with it, see what happens. The profile is certainly not, you know, like the most important part in human design. I think like the beauty of human design is that all of the elements kind of work together. But the profile is kind of how you operate, like how you interact with the world, how you interact in your relationships, or how you interact with, you know, the energies in your design. But for me, reading about my profile was honestly, it was like the first time I felt seen and understood in my experience. And after that, I was like, I have to know absolutely everything that there is to know. And my mind is just kind of constantly blown. So anyway, without further ado, the last time we were together, I read from the Definitive Book of Human Design. We read this background part here, but we're today going to read this personal section, just kind of build on our knowledge of the 3-5 or the martyr heretic profile. And then of course we'll get into the message after that. So it says, the hardest thing for you is to reconcile your very natural third line discovery dance through life with the projections of savior that others place on your unconscious fifth line. For you to correctly inhabit your role as a martyr heretic, your emphasis must be on what is learned when life bumps into you, as well as how and when to correctly apply these discoveries. You must have great discernment when something or someone bumps into you, and determine if it is worthwhile for you to stay there or not, to bond or not. Your discovery process may feel at times like you have failed, but your experimentation is a foundation that someone else will build on. There were 1,000 ways a light bulb did not work before they found the way that it did, yet each of those discoveries fed the next. You are someone who can sustain the trial and error process, as you do not give up easily. Most importantly, you need to enter into both your explorations and rescues correctly through your strategy and authority. You may end up feeling pessimistic about, Most importantly, you must enter into both your explorations and rescues correctly through your strategy and authority, or you may end up feeling pessimistic about life, or possibly watch your reputation go up in smoke. When a commitment is made correctly, you can step in with the full force of your resilience, adaptability, determination, generosity, and selflessness, and be sustained by life no matter how hard it bumps into you. And even if you get burned at the stake, you will just move on to the next one. You are here to stand up for a principle and to change the world around you by bringing a new value or structure to the collective. You may have to be careful, though, not to end up with a martyr complex, saying, "Why me?" or "Why now?" You have to discover the principles that you can live by yourself, and then transform those principles into a universalizing force. You are here to ultimately create a new principle, a new hearsay. Nope, hearsay. Not hearsay. Like, oh my gosh, if you watch the Johnny Depp trial. Anyway, sorry. You are here to ultimately create a new principle, a new hearsay. But that hearsay is not practical. Okay. Sorry. Oh my gosh. You are here to ultimately create a new principle, a new hearsay. And if that hearsay is not practical, you pay a price. Your work or any activity you engage in needs to be stimulating and not repetitious. Seeing new clients every day, for instance, can be good for you, as bonds made and broken is your theme. Very cool. Does that sound like you? It's always so interesting, you know, that third line. There's so much going on in that third line, I feel. I mean, there's a lot going on in the fifth line too. But that third line, right, like, you need the stimulation. You, like, you know, boredom, not good. Very uncomfortable, right? You know, like, you need that experimentation. You need that trial and error. You know, and it talks about making and breaking bonds. And it's also, you know, about knowing and understanding the purpose of those bonds, right? Like, understanding that part of your purpose is to make bonds and to break them, right? Like, they serve a purpose. They come in with an energy to learn you something, or you know, teach them something, and then they kind of move on. And that fifth line with the projection theme, you know, it's offering that practical solution, and you would have, and that's the thing, right? Is like, part of it is knowing if you have a practical solution or not. Like, have you gone through your trial and error process with the thing? Do you understand it? Do you feel like you know the ways that it doesn't work, so you can show somebody how it does? And that burning at the stake thing, that's definitely a fifth line. Along with the reputation thing, that's definitely fifth line also. Because, you know, people kind of project, like, you know, you're a savior, right? Like, you can fix this for us, so you can provide that solution, right? But you may come in and be like, well, I found all of the ways that it doesn't work. Like it was saying with the light bulb, right? There are thousands of experiments and ways that the light bulb didn't work. And a third line would be like, okay, you know, I figured out all of these ways that it didn't work. here's the way that it does. Or and that's if people kind of give you the opportunity to get there too, right? They might just be like, what the hell? You know, like we wanted you to fix the thing, but all that's happened is finding all of these, you know, all of these structures that don't work. And you're like, well, yeah, that's important information to have, right? So, you know, if you do ever feel like you have been quote unquote burned at the stake, like it was saying, just move on to the next. Like, try not to kind of develop that martyr complex. And if you do, of course, oh my gosh, right? Like, I mean, it would be so hard not to. But, you know, almost just maybe kind of recognize, like, kind of go through the process of whatever, like, you know, kind of feeling like you got burned, right? And then move on to the next thing, because know that your process is very much important. And if people don't see it that way, that's on them. We don't, I'm just going to do a 6-card spread. So just 2 rows of 3, shuffling a million times. We're going to shuffle 2 more times. 1 more time. Okay. Ooh, it's like feeling it in like my back tooth. That was weird. Are you guys like having any issues with your teeth? Here we go. The 5 of Pentacles, 7 of Swords, the High Priestess, 10 of Wands, 9 of Pentacles, and the 9 of Cups. Wow. 3 of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Great. So we'll go through the cards as we do. It's very interesting. Anyway, I mean, we'll just we start with the 5 of Pentacles here. Talk about practicality. The 5 of Pentacles generally talks about lack, loss of income, loss of time, right? I mean, generally there's this kind of general feeling of being left out in the cold, like literally, you know, it's generally snowing. This person is outside of this building. Also, you know, the direction that she's walking in, she's walking this way. This is walking like towards the past. When like the left side of the card is the past, the right side is the future. So this to me has this feeling of being stuck in the past. You know, this could even be like that story that we tell ourselves, right? I mean, like some sort of situation happened in the past that kind of gave you this feeling where maybe it just kind of took something from you. I always think about whole cruxes. Like our energy just gets stuck in a time and place and situation that just kind of keeps us anchored in the past and keeps us anchored in this, you know, like feeling of abandonment, maybe feeling of lack, you know, not having enough resources, not having help, you know. And it's been a burden. We have the 10 of Wands here. It's almost, you know, again, like I kind of use that word anchoring us to the past. Like it's really, you know, it's almost kind of like prevented us from moving forward. But the 10s are all about completion, right? It's like this situation is done. It's got to be done. You know, I mean, we also have a few snakes on here. Like there's a snake in the glass. There's a snake kind of wrapped around her leg and coming out of the cloth here. You know, and that could signify like temptation. Because, you know, this one snake, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got an apple in its mouth. There's a few apples here, you know, just kind of the symbolism of, you know, the serpent in the Garden of Eden and the apple. This might just be something that for whatever reason you have not been able to kind of forgive yourself for or get past. And again, like it's really been a burden here. Because that's what the 10 of Wands talks about. You know, you're carrying all these wands. This is a whale coming up and, you know, there's these arms embracing it. But again, when we talk about the 10s, that is a completion of the thing. So, you know, whatever this burden is, this would signify to me that either you are ready to leave that, like, you know, kind of ready to offer yourself that forgiveness or shed the skin, literally, right? Like with the symbolism of snakes and how they do shed their skin when they grow. I see the wands as being like information cards too, like experience, knowledge, wisdom, you know, and generally like when we get to the 10, it's, you know, it's carrying all those lessons, all those experiences with us. And speaking to your profile, right? Like it says, or it did mention in there about, you know, try not to have that martyr complex, which is kind of how this feels. Because then we have the 7 of Swords here. And the 7 of Swords can talk about, you know, betrayal, deceit, a bit of, you know, like a sneaky kind of energy. This raccoon is taken off with these swords, right? Swords have to do with our thoughts, our intellect, how we perceive things. It's a lot of our ego also, because generally that's where we hear our ego is in our minds. So again, you know, like just this combo here, how whatever the situation is has just been almost kind of playing tricks on you. Like this could be, it could be, you know, like a projection, since, you know, you have that 5th line. It could be a projection that somebody made on you when you were just going through your process, right? Being who you are. That 3rd line, bumping into life bumping into you, breaking bonds, trial and error, right? Like you're testing shit, you're trying shit. And, you know, like maybe somebody, this could be that burning at the stake thing. And maybe, you know, like it just scared you almost. Like I said, like just kind of took something from you. And maybe there was a whole crux left at that time in your life. Because we have the 9 of Pentacles here. And the 9 of Pentacles talks about, I mean, like luxury, right? Like abundance, harvest. There's, you know, this financial independence that comes with the 9 of Pentacles. Feeling taken care of, like feeling stable, right? And maybe you just don't see your situation as being stable. Maybe you don't see whatever you want to do or whatever you want to kind of put your energy towards. Like maybe you don't see it as something that could be financially stable, but it's almost kind of like you're keeping this energy from you, or this energy is keeping this energy from you, right? Like if it was a projection, if you did find yourself kind of stuck in that martyrdom energy, it would be blocking this energy of, you know, kind of abundance and flow. And like it was saying, let me just, you don't give up easily. When a commitment is made correctly, you can step in it with the full force of your resilience, blah, 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 and be sustained by life no matter how hard it bumps into you. And even if you get burned at the stake, you will just move on to the next one. And then we have the High Priestess here, which I see the High Priestess as being in tune with our star player. I see this as being, you know, like kind of that direct connection to our higher selves. It talks about intuition. It talks about, you know, even too, like things being hidden, maybe even a little bit of secrecy. She's generally holding a pomegranate here, and pomegranates talk about fertility, but in the sense of opportunity and I just lost my train of thought, sorry. But that, you know, again, like it just kind of has this feeling of like life coming at you. And I also wanted to emphasize, you know, it was talking about using your strategy and authority. So again, you know, on your body graph or when you pull up your chart, it'll tell you what your strategy and your authority is. So definitely take a look on YouTube or Google, whatever, you know, if you're not necessarily familiar with human design or if you're new to it, there's so many great resources out there and a ton of information specifically about each. Sorry about that. My technical difficulties. Anyway. So yes, definitely take a look at your strategy and authority. Google, YouTube. Interior Creature has a lot of amazing information on their website. I also just did a 20-week course with her, also amazing. And I love the way that she describes things. So anyway, a lot of information out there on that, because that could also be what this is. And that's the whole purpose of your strategy and authority also, is to bring the correct experiences into your life. Like not every experience is going to be the right one for you. And that's what, you know, the book was talking about, right? Like correctly entering into these things that bump up against you, because you don't have to get involved in absolutely everything, even if you know that you can. Not every experience is for you. So again, you know, like using your strategy and authority would help you understand, at least, and you may not even understand, but it would help you determine if something is right for you. And then we have the Nine of Cups here, which is amazing. Because this is the goal, right? Like this is the wish fulfillment card. Look at all these cats. She's like a cat lady. But there's this level of contentment with her too, right? So, you know, using your strategy and authority to enter into the correct experiences for you so that you can have this feeling of optimism instead of this feeling of pessimism, right? And then we have the Three of Swords at the bottom of the deck, and the Three of Swords generally talks about disappointment, rejection, you know, but again, with it being swords, it's how that or how those feelings live in our minds. So again, you know, like a lot of ego stuff going on here. What is the story that we're telling ourselves? Are we self-sabotaging? Right? Are we living in the past? Are we not letting go of this thing? Are we focusing on the ways that things can go wrong? Or are we focusing on, you know, getting burned at the stake? You know, like, are we paranoid about that? Because that comes with that fifth line also. I know all about that. Because like right behind it, we have the Queen of Pentacles. So it's like right on the other side of this, what, you know, whatever it is, like this feeling of being rejected, or this feeling of, you know, like having your heart broken, or right on the other side of that is this beautifully like nurturing, you know, again, this level of contentment, having your needs met with the pentacles there. There's, you know, like a sense of stability when it comes to that, and also being in your power. Like, you know, when we talk about the queens are when we understand the energy of that suit. So we go from, you know, this Five of Pentacles to the next pentacle that we see is this Nine of Pentacles here, right? And then the next pentacle we see is the Queen. So there is this progression thing going on here also, right? But when we see the queens embody the energy, like they understand it themselves, because we have to see it within ourselves before we can share it with other people, right? And that's, you know, like, so the queen does that, and then when you get to the king, that's when you start sharing with other people. But it's like, you know, understanding, you know, you have the resources, you have the finances, or you will, right? So this almost just kind of feels like this, like kind of kick in the butt about like getting back into shit. Like if you have been, you know, just kind of laying low, not necessarily stimulated by much, this is a message about getting stimulated, right? Like diving back in, you know, getting back in the saddle, whatever, you know, analogy you want to use. Like, stop fooling yourself here, right? Because, you know, this raccoon is even looking at this high priestess, looking forward, right? Like, because he's looking, he, she, whatever. The raccoon is looking to the right, which is looking towards the future. It's not looking at this Five of Pentacles. We're not staying in the past. No, no. No, no, no. I'm here for it. And I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.